And welcome in on this Friday morning. You're watching First Coast News' online coverage of the murder trial of three men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery, at 25 years old, was shot and killed in the Satilla Shores neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia. Again, this happened back in February of 2020. Fast forward now to November of 2021, and the trial is now underway. We are about to enter day 6 of testimony in less than 30 minutes. At about 9 o'clock, court is set to resume, and we will continue to hear from witnesses. So far, we have heard mainly from a lot of law enforcement officers. Just yesterday, we heard from Larry English, who is the former owner of the home, really the home at the center of all of this, where we saw the surveillance video of Ahmaud Arbery walking inside of the home. Right now, the big question is, was there ever anything actually taken from that home by Ahmaud Arbery? All of the testimony we've heard thus far, everyone is saying that is not the case. They cannot confirm that. So we want to welcome in right now trial attorney Richard Kurtz. He is not at all involved in this case. We want to make that clear. But Richard is very familiar with these types of high-profile cases, and so we had to bring him in for some analysis. Richard, I just want to delve right into this. We appreciate you joining us, by the way. You can see he's inside of his vehicle. He's a busy man, so we do want to thank you for taking time out to talk with us. And we're going to wrap this a little early. I know you have to get to court yourself at about 9 o'clock this morning. Right. So, Richard, I want to talk about what everyone is talking about, obviously not just in Georgia and Glynn County, but also across the nation right now. Some would say it's a bit of a distraction to this case, but we're talking about William Bryan's attorney, Kevin Gow. He says such striking things, including just yesterday we heard him mention Al Sharpton. He did not want Al Sharpton inside of the courtroom. He said, this is a quote, "We don't want any more black pastors in here." So, of course, him saying something like this just caused a firestorm. People all across the nation right now are thinking, what is going on there in Glynn County? So let's delve right into that comment right now, Richard, if you can, your reaction to that.
That was a horrible choice of words. That's the easiest way to say it. I know what his passion was. I know what his thoughts were. But that was a horrible choice of words to say, don't want any more black pastors in here. That was a horrible choice of words. So I don't want to be, I'm here to be your analyst, but I don't want to be too critical of people. But to say we don't want any more black pastors in here is just, he may have thought that, but that's a horrible choice of words. And I think that was wrong. Yeah. Al Sharpton being in the courtroom, he can't control that. It's a public courtroom. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, he's allowed to be in there. Now, whether we're doing a drama, whether, that something was inappropriate, I don't know the answer to that yet. But I think those were a horrible choice of words.
So we can't question that. Definitely a horrible choice of words, but you said you believe you understand the meaning behind that. Where was he going with that? What was he trying to say, perhaps?
Well, I'm a little disturbed about a few things.
Okay.
And I don't want to be too critical of a judge or a prosecution and of a plan, but the judge knew about this at lunch. He knew about it at noon and didn't tell the lawyers.
So let's just clarify that, Richard, briefly before you even get into that. What we do know, because we saw the trial, you saw it as well, what was going on, is that the judge did say that he was approached and told that Al Sharpton would be in the courtroom. He did not see it as an issue at the point. But that's what you're drawing attention to right now. Richard, please, go ahead, continue.
If a judge knew that Reverend Al Sharpton was flying into that county, that little town for this case, the judge should have absolutely advised counsel. I mean, that is a non-issue to me. That is a serious error on the judge's part. Somebody with a personality like Reverend Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson is flying in to be in the audience, sit with the family. The defense lawyer should have been advised of it in advance.
Okay. You mentioned Jesse Jackson. We do want to mention that we are hearing that he is set to be there next week, by the way, so we'll see what happens in that case, because as we mentioned earlier, William Bryan's attorney does have an issue with what he says these black pastors coming in, obviously high-profile people coming into the actual courtroom. All of this, many would say, is really just a distraction to what is actually happening inside the courtroom. So I do want to delve into that with you briefly, Richard. So we know that Kevin Gow, one of his comments that he made earlier this week was that he asked for a mistrial again, and again that was denied by the judge. So I want to talk about his grounds for that, and again, is it even possible at this point, a mistrial?
Well, mistrial is always possible. That could happen at any second, any time, at any time. So that is real. We talked about previously whether you could sever the defendants. That's not going to happen at this point. But a mistrial could happen at 9:15 this morning. A mistrial could occur. So that is real. So requesting a mistrial is real, but severance is not real. And I'm really bothered by the fact that the judge did not tell the defense lawyers that the Reverend Al Sharpton was going to be in the audience. I really have a serious problem with that.
Do you want to delve into that, Richard? Why is that?
Because it's, in where we practice law in Jacksonville, in the Duval County, there's been experiences where Harry Shorstein or Angela Corey have chosen to come into the audience and sit with the victim's family. And it's clearly sending a message to the jury that they're sending a message to the jury, is the easiest way to say it. Now, there's been a couple of cases here in Jacksonville that have been reversed on appeal, and this is where this case is going, unfortunately, for the family, is when they bring in 20 law enforcement officers, and 20 law enforcement officers sit in the front row or the first two rows, and they're clearly intimidating the jury and trying to get the jury to, go with the prosecution. And that has happened, and the law has been supporting a reversal on appeal, and I think this case is getting dangerously close to not getting closure. I think this case is getting dangerously close to that.
Let me, first of all, let's clarify something. So we do know that William Bryan's attorney, he did say that was his reasoning for not wanting Al Sharpton, for example, inside of that courtroom, as he believes it's an intimidation type of thing. They're trying to intimidate the jurors. So that was his argument there. Really what's being picked up was the comment of him saying we don't want any more black pastors in here. Again, an awful choice of words, but we do know where he was going. He is concerned about intimidation towards the jurors. I do want to touch on this, something you just mentioned, appeal. Why do you believe that's the direction in which this trial is going at this case? And let's talk about the possibilities ahead for an appeal.
I want to be respectful to the attorneys that are handling the case and to the judge that's handling this case, but it's not going well. Let me just say that. I mean, it's just not going well. There are too many issues. The defense lawyers have not necessarily preserved all of the issues they need to do, and the judge is saying things that he probably should not say. And one thing that you learn when you're a judge is that less words are better, because the more you speak, the worse it is. And this judge in this situation is, I'm just not confident that this conviction, if it is a conviction, it may be a not guilty verdict. But to say the things that the judge has said, and to say the things that the lawyers have said, and to argue that they should have a severance at the end of the day when they didn't file for it at the beginning, this case is messy. It's messy. I could totally see this case coming back one day, or being resolved with a plea, because this case is not going as well as it should go.
Well, that's certainly not something that the family wants to hear, that's for sure, the Arbery family. You're being very vague, Rich. I don't know if perhaps that's on purpose. Is there anything in particular that the judge is saying that's disturbing to you, or?
Well, the thing that's absolutely disturbing, and I'm trying to be vague, and I'm trying to be, respectful, but the fact that the judge knew about it at noon that Reverend Al Sharpton was coming into the courtroom and he didn't tell anybody, that is, he made a serious mistake. That is a problem to me. I'm just I don't know this judge. Never practiced in front of this judge. And when he sees this video and hears this video, he probably won't like me when I do see him. But that was a huge mistake. That was a huge mistake.
Yeah, well, we did see a lot of back and forth between the state as well as the defense attorneys and the judge as well. Just a couple of days ago, we saw the judge get upset. He said, basically, you don't have to like my ruling or me, but you'll respect me. Now, this is what he said to Travis's attorney. This is after some more back and forth in the courtroom, which we've been seeing throughout the last couple of days. Well, throughout the duration of this, week 4 right now, we've been seeing a lot of back and forth between all of them, all the defense attorneys, the judge, as well as the state. Like you said, it's been a very messy case. I want to ask you about this because we've heard a lot of testimony so far from a lot of the law enforcement that have been involved in this case. Now, what was very interesting is that it was asked time and time again, do we know if Ahmaud Arbery actually stole anything from the property? Many of the law enforcement officers who took the stand, you kept on hearing, no, it was not said. Another thing that was very interesting, it was asked, did the McMichaels ever say that we are performing a citizen's arrest? The response to that as well has been no. And you know, citizen's arrest, that's a big part of the defense's argument. They're key. They're saying that it was a citizen's arrest as well as self-defense. So the fact that these law enforcement officers are saying no, it was not mentioned, is that it appears to be, but you tell me, what do you see happening because that was said?
Well, where we're going with this is it's to give an example. If in criminal law, if you walk into Target, I walk into Target and I pick up an item and I put it in my pocket and I choose to walk out, okay, or I even get to the front door, they can stop me and they can arrest me for theft, even though I've not even left the building. I've not even gone through the register. The issue in this case is something that I've dealt with many times, is that construction homes become vulnerable because nobody's there. Nobody lives there. And so all of a sudden you start putting in a washer, a dryer, a refrigerator, you put in, various items in there, and people, believe it or not, I mean, this is an issue that I've dealt with on many occasions. They go in there and steal all the appliances, or they steal all the copper, or they steal whatever they can steal. So in this case, well, it's not popular conversation, but it is the reality of this is people go into homes that are under construction and they steal items. They steal air conditioning units. They steal refrigerators. They steal these things. Why he was continuing to stroll through a home, we all have to just be honest with ourselves at some point. There's a reason he was strolling through those homes. Now, what happened should have been handled differently, perhaps. Should the police just been involved and, handled it differently? Yes. But let's just be honest with ourselves. At some level, there's no reason for him, if he was really a jogger, that he's stopping by and walking through this home on more than one occasion. I mean, let's just be honest.
Okay. And we want to make certain things clear. So we do know that in court when it was one of the, Stephen Lowry, he was one of the investigators. I want to give you exactly what he said. He was asked if there was a burglary committed. He asked this to the McMichaels, and Gregory McMichael specifically said, quote, "That's just it, I don't know." So it was never confirmed. They don't know if anything was actually taken from that construction site there. So we do want to clarify that. Now, I want to ask you about your thoughts on the way things are going. You mentioned it's been a messy trial overall, a lot of things happening behind the scenes, some things in front of the jurors that perhaps should not be happening in front of them. But overall, are you seeing, because right now we're seeing the state's case being presented, how is the state doing thus far in your opinion?
No, the state's doing everything they're supposed to be doing. Okay. The state's doing everything appropriate. No, as I mentioned to you off the record, is they're doing everything they're supposed to do. They're pulling in all of the first responders. They're doing everything they're supposed to do, and they're putting forward their case. The problem is going to be for the prosecution is their theory of the case at the end of the day. But is the prosecution doing a good job? Yes. Is the defense doing a good job. They're trying. Let me just say it that way. They're doing what they can with what they have in front of them. But the prosecution is on track. The prosecution is doing everything they're supposed to do. The judge, is making some questionable comments on the record that he should not be making personally. But the case is moving forward, but it is a seriously messy case. Now that you're starting to bring in Al Sharpton, now you're starting to bring in potentially Jesse Jackson. That, like I said, that can be problematic.
Yeah, it's proving to be a bit in a way, obviously, because of the comments that are being made inside of the courtroom and now outside as well. Richard, let me ask you this, because moving forward, so people can understand the process, what's set to happen. So we know that last week, Friday, day one opening statements, we did hear from the state. We heard from two of the defense attorneys, which was Gregory McMichael's attorney and Travis McMichael's attorney. We did not hear from William Bryan's attorney. He did not give an opening statement. He's set to wait until after the state rests their case. So explain to us that process and what we can expect to happen.
Yes, and it's not used often, but he is entitled to do it. He can reserve his right to make an opening statement until the prosecution is done, so that he can hear and listen to whatever the prosecution has to say. And especially in a case like this is a case that I might do the same move as well, because you're going to hear what the prosecution has to say. You're going to hear what the other two defense lawyers have to say before you stand up and you make your statement, so that you can stay credible. And you have one thing about trying a homicide case is credibility, and you can't mislead the jury. So you can't say something in opening statement that is incorrect or will be found to be incorrect during the course of the proceedings. So it's actually kind of a brilliant move, if you ask me, to let the prosecution go first, the other two lawyers go first, listen to all of the evidence, and then you decide what story version you want to tell. And so I was not surprised by that. It's a unique move, but I applaud him for doing that, to be honest with you.
Okay. Perhaps the safe thing to do at this point, correct?
Say it again?
Perhaps it's the safest thing to do at this point.
Right. The state's doing everything they're supposed to do. They're going to follow the line. They're going to call all the people. They're going to do everything they're supposed to do. They're going to play the videos. They're going to do everything they're supposed to do. The judge needs to stay out of the way and let this be, a legitimate trial, and not put himself in the middle of it. I keep coming back. The thing that offended me the most was the fact that this judge knew about this at lunch, that Sharpton was coming in, and didn't tell anybody. That offends me, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Richard, I want to take a look at the timeline moving forward and your thoughts on this. So we know Gregory McMichael's attorney, Jason Sheffield, he thinks the state will finish on Monday or Tuesday of next week, and then we're expecting the defense to start presenting on Tuesday. The goal is to wrap up sometime before Thanksgiving. Do you think that is plausible at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
I honestly, based on what I know about the case, I do not expect that the defense case is going to be very much. Okay. They're just going to argue this is what it was. There's the video. If there are statements, there are statements, and they're going to leave it alone. I would not put my clients on the stand to explain anything. If I did, it would be to try to explain what their sense of fear was, I guess. If they had any fear that caused them to escalate it. We all understand why they started the process of talking to this person and maybe running him down or chasing him down for law enforcement purposes or whatever it may be. But, when it became violent, that changes things. So
I want to make it clear they're not law enforcement, by the way, neither of them. So we know that Gregory McMichael, he was law enforcement at a point. He wasn't when this happened. And we know that his son, Travis, he was in the Coast Guard as well. But in this case, it wasn't an official capacity at all. They were both just neighbors who were concerned.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So I really, as a defense lawyer, and having tried, over 50 homicide cases myself, I don't know that I would put them on the stand unless they're incredibly believable. And but my knee-jerk reaction is, it's all on video. You've heard everything. You've heard their interviews. There's nothing to gain by putting the person on the stand. So do I think this case is going to be over next week? Yes. It's going to be over before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Richard, as always, we appreciate your time. You have 5 minutes to get into court, by the way.
I do. I'll tell Judge Soud you said hello.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, Richard. Folks, you have been watching First Coast News' online coverage of the trial of 3 men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery, again, at just 25 years old, was shot and killed in the Satilla Shores neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia. And now we are seeing things play out right in front of our very eyes. Trial is underway. We are now entering day 6 of testimony. In just a few minutes, we will let you listen into that. Court is set to resume at 9 a.m. So we have so far heard from several witnesses, including law enforcement, as well as a neighbor, and Larry English, who is was the owner of the property in question. The video that we have all seen of Ahmaud Arbery walking around a construction site, the home that was being built. So we heard him get on the stand saying that he does not believe that Ahmaud Arbery actually stole anything from that property. In fact, we haven't heard any of the witnesses on the stand say that he has stolen anything. But again, it was the thought that perhaps he was going to. Even Gregory McMichael at a point, he said that that's just it. I don't know. And that's what he said after asked if he knew if anything was actually stolen by Arbery. So again, just lots to unpack in this case, which is why we just had analyst Richard Kurtz here, who is a well-known trial attorney here in Jacksonville. He'll be back, and we will continue to have live coverage for you and bring you analysis from our legal experts. But right now, we're going to turn things over to that live feed. The court is set to resume in just a couple of minutes. Again, you're watching First Coast News' online coverage of the murder trial of 3 men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Those 3 defendants are Gregory and Travis McMichael, father and son, as well as their neighbor, William Bryan, who was the man who took the cell phone video of the entire altercation, including when we saw Ahmaud Arbery shot and killed. A lot of emotion as well inside of the testimony, as we're seeing every day. We're seeing family members from both sides in the courtroom, the Arbery's as well. During this testimony, as well as the showing of some very graphic videos, we have seen the reaction of Ahmaud Arbery's family members, his mother included, crying in the courtroom. But all of that, again, you'll be able to catch right here on our live feed on channel 25.2, as well as our First Coast YouTube page, our First Coast app, and firstcoastnews.com. Again, we are going to go ahead and turn things over now to that live feed so you can see what's happening in court, which is set to resume in just 1 minute as we continue to cover the trial, the murder trial of 3 men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery.